This is a worthless piece of wood, and I mean that quite literally. This piece of wood was given to me by my wood supplier because they said they couldn't do anything with it. I thought that it had some really cool figures, some really cool grains, and yeah, it had a lot of cracks, but I thought I might be able to do something with it. So took it home, got it squared up, put it on the bandsaw, really maxed out as high as that bandsaw would cut, and here's what it made. It made a Rafiki. It looks just like a mandrel to me. I don't know what you see, but it's kind of a Rorschach type of test. Anyway, I thought it was cool enough to keep going, so I put a couple dominoes in, got it clamped up, and now I wasn't quite sure the exact shape it was going to take, but I wanted to make sure all the defects were filled, and for that I used some black resin because as cool as cracks are, people generally want a little bit smoother of a top than that kind of busted up walnut would have allowed for. Now I can get going on the table base. This table base was going to be a bit of a risk for me as well. I had kind of experimented with some power carved sculpted table base in the last year, and I wanted to go a little bit bigger. I wanted to go up to a bistro height, and this one I decided to go offset. That's why you saw me gluing that circle off to the right to make it just a little bit more unique looking. And this is a big chunk of walnut I've had for, probably a couple of years now. It's about 4 inches by 6 inches. And I was just getting the rough cut on the bandsaw. And for attaching it, I just put one extra long domino. And this is mostly going to be just for alignment, not necessarily for strength. Most of the strength is going to come from that epoxy bond at the base. What I am doing here is called power carving. It's basically a wood carving disc on an angle grinder, and it's for those of us that want to pretend like we're sculptors but don't have the patience to just chisel something away. And it's actually pretty fun because if you mess up, you don't have a whole week invested in it, and it really kind of lets you be as creative as you want. And this probably wasn't my best design. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more proportionate, but at the end, that bistro height and this kind of spindly leg looks a little bit like a flamingo leg, and I think I could do a little bit better the next time. On the underside though, I wanted it to sit flat, so the best way to do that is to carve out this center section and leave just a lip along the edge, and that will make it much easier for this to sit on any surface. The finish that I'm using on this and most of my projects lately is called Rubia Monocoat. It is a hard wax oil finish, really simple to use. You basically wipe it on, let it get saturated, and then wipe off all the excess, and it really enables you to feel the grain and just highlights that natural really beauty of the walnut. And now I can get back to working on this top, which I wasn't entirely sure what it was going to look like coming out of the planer, but yeah, I still think that it looks like a mandrel. It's kind of a wild looking piece, and everybody seems to see something else in it. I've heard the Napster logo, I've heard a black-tailed deer, I've heard jackalope. I would love to know what you see in it because it kind of amuses me every time I hear something new. The finish process is pretty simple. There was a lot of sanding involved in it, but again, I used Rubia Monocoat. This time I did 2 coats, which I have some other videos which go into my finishing process, which again, it's not too complicated. To attach the top to the base, I ordered a bunch of these discs on eBay, just regular steel discs. Added some countersunk holes, a couple of wood screws, and this will enable me to switch this top around if I find a better top or I want to use that top on a different piece. It's not married to this base exactly. And here is the overall look. I love how the top turned out. I think the base could be a little bit better, and I would love to know what you think.